All right, what's up, horror fans? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with Danny, DrZaiusGoD, and we just lost Chris. He's back. Chris, also known as Future Boy Chris, and boy, today do we have a treat for you. We actually have the producer of 1BR, Alok Mishra, and then we also have Naomi Grossman, who was in 1BR and is also from American Horror Story and a whole bunch of other things too. So we are just super happy to have them on the show today. And we're going to ask them a bunch of questions. And we want to spread the word about 1BR because I think there's one thing we're all in agreement on is that that movie is freaking great. And that wasn't an F-bomb. It was just freaking. So we're good. and, Naomi, I wanted to say that I'm actually not wearing a black t-shirt because I remember that when you were on another show, you were like, you didn't get the memo to wear a black t-shirt. So I would normally wear one, but yeah. So I did the button down.
Wow.
Yes.
I love it. I mean, either way, you know, do you, but. I
will. But yeah, but thank you guys so much for being on. And so for 1BR, the thing is, I saw on Netflix, or on Twitter, I'm sorry, Alok, you tweeted that it's the #1 trending movie, #1 trending horror movie, right?
Well, listen, every day they're different things, right? I've learned to understand what's going on with that place, and they're lovely people. And, you know, we got basically we're in US and Canada right now. Everywhere else, if you want it, go and basically tell Netflix you want it. That's what I would tell you. Tweet at them, Instagram them, do whatever. So that's what I would tell you. But for the US and Canada, we got as high as #1 for the best movie, you know, of that day. We were in the top 5 for a week, which is unheard of for like a no-budget film like ours. Like it just came out of nowhere, but it didn't come out of nowhere because we've been talking about it for like since April. Like, you know, Naomi Grossman, myself, and David, and everyone else, like all the different actors on the film have been going, Naomi Grossman mainly though, to be honest, have been going out and literally doing every podcast we can, getting every bit of sticky Google sphere kind of shit that we can do. And so it's been a group and team effort, and it paid off in the way that we got #1 on Netflix in US, #3 in Canada, and #8 overall with, #6 actually, between TV and movies. And TV just dominates everything, to be honest. So we got very lucky to actually get to #6 for the US for overall TV and also movies. So yeah, it's been an interesting sort of ride, and like done very well on VOD and everything, and overperforming in the UK, and about to release in Australia, and already out in Japan. It's called instead of 1BR or in UK and Australia, it's called Apartment 1BR.
Okay.
In Japan, it's called Madhouse. You say it just like that, actually. Madhouse.
Nice.
Madhouse.
Well, and just so our viewers should know too, there's going to be spoilers throughout this discussion too. So we recommend that you just go watch 1BR.
Stop right now. Go watch it on Netflix. All you people have Netflix. It's 90 minutes. It's a tight 90 minutes. Yes. Watch it, come back.
Very tight 90 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So making this film, you know, we were looking through the press kit. It says right in the press kit that the production itself was kind of challenging, right? There were some issues during the production. And it says it right in the press kit. I was wondering, like, what are some of the stories behind the actual making of the movie?
Well, there's so many, but I'm just going to give you like maybe one, which is like we had in our pre-production, we had a lot of difficulty casting. And in so much as this, we had a cast. We had like, in fact, we had a like very well-known TV actress approach us and was like, I want to do your movie. And we're like, fuck yeah, you can do our movie. We're already in the black and with you in the movie. And we also would tell you like that it's so stupid that producers have to worry about this nowadays. Like, oh my God, you're 3 or 4 million Instagram fans. This is something we have to automatically cast you on because of that bullshit, right? And she also had like a friend, I'm doing quote marks in the air or whatever, or I don't know if it was a boyfriend with quote marks in the air, allegedly, that she was like, listen, hire this guy, he's fucking great. He was on some sort of CW vampire bullshit show that I'd never watched in my life. And so I was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. He has like a certain amount of Instagram fans, apparently can act well enough to be on network TV. So I'll hire you. So we did. And this was a mistake because literally like on a Monday before we shot on a Thursday, essentially what happens is we get a call that this girl has dropped out. No reason given, right? And we're like, fuck, we're fucked. We're fucked. By the way, like I may or may not have mortgage. I may or may not have mortgaged an already paid off house for this. I'm allegedly as well. But like, all of our money is in this movie with the producers, let's say, in addition to like having to try to produce a film, right? And so this is a worry in your brain, your monkey brain going like, oh my God, I fucked myself.
Right.
So what happens is that we realize that she's dropped out. Then her friend drops out, the CW vampire bastard. And then we go to a bar just to drink and think about things for a second. What can we do? What are we supposed to do in the situation? We get a call. Our older lady actress who's supposed to play Miss Stanhope in the movie, her husband collapsed, rushed to the hospital, is dead.
Oh,
so now
God.
he's out too. This is 3 people in one day. And we're like, I don't know if I'm like Job or something. I'm trying to get through this. Like, I don't know. But we push everything back a week and we start looking for people. And we always wanted Nicole Bryden Bloom, who plays Sarah now, right? Sure. She was the director's first choice. And she was, kind of our first choice too. But when you have somebody else who's going to immediately put you in the black, greedy, money-grubbing producers, I'm making a finger thing here. I can't see it, but people are listening to it. But you have to make a decision to do that, right? And so, we got Sarah, Nicole Bryden Bloom, to come in right away. She was so good. And I'll tell you the truth, she elevated the movie. I don't think we would have gotten the movie finished on time if it wasn't for her, just because she was so good. Like, she can cry 8 different ways. She is amazing. And she is auditioning for stuff right now, and I can't even talk about it because, respect to her, that, is way above whatever we just did here. I feel like we discovered her, and I feel so good about that in the way that, like, this is like, if David Marmor is hopefully the future John Carpenter, and we have some really cool shit coming out, which I'll go into later, then this is our Jamie Lee Curtis of sorts, right? So that's a good thing. Other people, sorry, I don't want to miss this up here. So what happened was that we got her right away. Then fast forward to Friday, we're shooting on Monday. We still haven't got 2 of the characters. We're still waiting to get 2 of the characters. And so we basically got everyone we know to send us like, reels and everything else, and older lady actresses. And like, I get one, I watch it, it's Susan Davis, and she's like the mom from War Games, and she's like Robert Altman's like cousin, and she's been in a ton of stuff. She's like a working, character actress for years and years and years. And she's amazing. And I look at a reel and I'm like, there's a number at the end of it. I call it, and it happens to be like her picking up the phone, not her agent or manager. And I was like, holy shit, I'm sorry, I'm going to be inappropriate. I'm going to pitch you the movie. I'm going to pitch you us. And I did. And she was like, I've never done a cult movie before. And she, 11:30, she signed.
Right.
Fast forward to that night, like 7 o'clock. We're just waiting around trying to figure out who the male lead's going to be. And we're just like, are we going to be able to shoot on Monday? Yeah. This is like fucking real. Like, we're going to lose our fucking money. Like, it's all go away. Because we paid for things. We pushed it back and got some of the money back from things we pushed back from the Thursday to whatever, because people were nice to us. But we're calling everyone we know to make the agencies stay open later. We have like friends with Jason Blum and those guys, and like his head of post-production was like calling CAA and ICM and be like, fucking stay open for this little movie. Help us cast this fucking little movie, Yeah. And we got a call finally, and it's Gersh, who's been helping us the whole time along, and they were amazing. Rhonda Price and all this, that whole crew was amazing. And so they basically tell us we have Giles, Matthey. And the reason we didn't hear from him earlier is he's driving down from San Francisco and had to pull over to the side of the road and read his like script on his phone. And he just read his part and was just like, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like, he just read his part. And Naomi tells me like, that's all actors do.
Super normal, by the way. Like, no actor reads the whole script.
I didn't know.
Like on the spur of the moment it is?
Well, he decided to do it. Like, I mean, we shot this over basically December, right? So everyone's sort of like giving up. They're agreeing to stay in LA if they're from other places, let's say, because we shot over Christmas purposely because it's cheaper, because people like don't have jobs and they're like, oh, I'll work on this for a bit of a discount, because I get some work, right? So anyway, he said yes. And we were like, I think we're gonna shoot. Drink. So that'll happen, and that was that was one of the hardships. There's so many hardship stories we could go into, but that's what I'll tell you for now. There's an article in Movie Maker magazine that I wrote. That they let me write, and so that was it. Naomi, you were gonna say something. I'm sorry. I think I.
Well, no, I don't mean to interrupt you. I feel like, these stories, it's hard for you to be objective because it's your money. Like, it's your house you've mortgaged. So, like, as a storyteller, it doesn't get any higher stakes than that. But I can say, as an audience member, for me, the fact that our production van was actually stolen, like full of our equipment from set, and like literally, like there were, well, I've heard this story like a dozen different times and I still butcher it every time. But the fact is, it's true. Like there was a PA that was paid to, babysit the van. And sure enough, here it is, like taking off. And so he like followed it.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
The cops are behind, like, stand down.
It's a televised chase. Like this is like on the news and stuff. Like this happened in the middle of the night, and it was like at our production offices. And she's right. Like it was a thing where this poor production PA was sleep. There's 3 trucks. He's sleeping in the middle truck, and these guys took this first truck, and then he chased after them because he's like an adrenaline junkie or something. I don't know, but he's amazing, obviously. And he basically chased this truck with the cops on the phone, and they're like, "You need to stand down," and it was like, "I'm not standing down until you get behind this truck," and so he
saved the show. I mean, really. And then when they did finally stand down, and this is, like I said, all on television, like there's footage of this actually on the Blu-ray if people watch it on Blu-ray. But then as the guy gets out, the felon, essentially, he happens to be gorgeous, which I like that part. I think it's a nice detail, you know what I mean? For anybody who watches Ops, like they're always like kind of scary shirtless guys, but the fact that it's just like hot, like, I don't know, I just think that's an important.
They call him, or Naomi calls him lovingly, the handsome felon.
The handsome felon.
This sounds like the next movie you have to make, Alok.
I think so too. But the funny thing is, they didn't tell any of us this. They just pushed it by pushed our call time by like an hour. It's like, no big deal. And no one knew. Like, they did not tell David. They didn't tell anybody until we were actually at Fantasia, which is a big horror film festival where we premiered in Montreal. And Alok at the Q&A was like, "Surprise, I've got a little something for you." And he rolled the footage of, like, basically from, KTLA News or whatever, of this hot felon, driving away with all of our production gear. So, like I said, like, it's all drama with this movie.
That sounds like a pitch for Nightcrawler 2.
I mean, I actually, weirdly, I just watched Nightcrawler the other day, and I really did think about that when I was watching it. I was like, this would have been one of the guys like capturing this footage, because I don't even know who got this footage. I know it was on the news, but like, at the end of the day, it was a thing where, like, this guy was a new member of a production truck stealing ring who had never been caught before.
Oh wow!
He was on his way to Tijuana with his truck. Right, and he got caught. He rolled over on them apparently, and he's supposed to pay us restitution, which I've never seen before. Like I don't know when I'm going to see that money. I'd love to see that money.
Right.
But because he kind of destroyed the truck when he was gunning it and stuff, Like they caught him at a McDonald's / Chevron station. If you go and you look at that Movie Maker article, that look up 1BR and Movie Maker. You'll see it, and there's the footage there too, by the way. But it's also on the DVD. It's on the Blu-ray. So, amongst like other amazing things, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell my wife that story too, because she and I just watched the movie recently, and I got to say that my wife is actually pretty critical of movies, but she absolutely loved it. We both loved watching the movie together. And the thing is, like, you were talking about having trouble with casting. I think the movie's like excellently cast. Like, everyone does a great job. There's not a weak link in the cast. Naomi, you did a fantastic job. And I was wondering, Alok said that, maybe the director is like Carpenter and Sarah is like, basically like Laurie Strode, right? So who would Janice be then in the movie? Who would you compare Janice to?
You're asking me or you're asking Naomi?
Naomi.
Well, but see, I don't know these references that you just made, which makes me sound like an idiot.
Oh. Well, okay.
But it makes it difficult to finish your analogy.
I think it's a harder question to answer if I'm being honest, because like if you look at Halloween, like okay, well, who comes from Halloween 1 to Halloween 2 to Halloween, whatever. It's basically like the lead actress that kind of goes across, let's say, right?
Right.
But what's interesting though, here's the thing though. What's interesting about Janice is she isn't dead, and I'm spoilering that, I guess, to some extent, but.
Yeah.
Who knows what could happen? Who knows what direction this is going to go? We don't know. Like we've been making fun of like different names we've come up for the sequel. Everyone's like, 2BR. And I'm like, that's too easy. That's too fucking easy. 1BR, 2 back. Because who doesn't need 2 back? I mean, it keeps the relationship fresh. It's going to be great. Like da-da-da. Or even more interesting, 1BR, The Chronicles of Janice. Like it could just be that. Who knows?
I like it.
Yeah.
We could go all different directions with it. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But we have
Alok is
ideas.
so smart. He knows how to get me. Because, listen, we shot this over 2 shoots, actually. We did some reshoots. We started it around Christmas, as he mentioned, which is, of course, a cheap time to shoot. And, of course, it's a time when people are around and aren't doing anything else. But they apparently needed more, so we came back for reshoots. Of all the weekends in the world, they chose... Actually, this weekend, it was Emmy's weekend, which was exactly 2 years ago today, by the way. But anyway, it happened to be the year that I was nominated. And so it was one of those things where Alok was like, Naomi, we need you back. Like, we realized we squandered you. Like, your talent is just, we need more. We don't have enough of you. And that's all I need to hear. Like, I'm like, Giles, Matthey, you know what I mean? Like, look for my part. Yeah. So it's really, all you need to say is, we effed up, we squandered you, we need more of you in order to have like, #1 on Netflix movie. And like, okay. And so yes, like I am eating what you're feeding, Alok. Like, yes, 1BR, Chronicles of Janice. What's my call?
Sadly, from a producer standpoint, it's more like I'm feeding her human centipede kind of stuff. Because, whatever, I'm a liar, but I'm also a good friend of Naomi Grossman for 20 years, good friends, right?
That's true.
And she was such a lady mensch to come back for us, to help us. Like, she was like, I can't go to that gifting suite, but I'm sending my mom to get that trip to Barbados or whatever the fuck it was. And she did it. She got it. Still can't go because fucking COVID. Fuck you, Trump. Sorry, no offense. I shouldn't say that. You can edit that out if you need to, but you can say it. Put it in there if you want. But anyway, long and short though is that she was such a mensch to come back and do it for us. And actually, here's the truth of it. We reshot the ending. That was the main thing. We reshot the ending, and we had a couple different endings that we did, and I can't tell you the alternate endings because we're thinking about if they ever do another. We're talking about DVDs before and what they put on them. Yeah. We would definitely put those on there. We had like 2 other alternate endings to it and stuff. But she came back, and I think it was because, you tell me if I'm wrong, Naomi, that you really kind of obviously believed in the project, but also knew that we needed something else because I'd shown you sort of a rough cut of it, and you're like, we need something else. And I was like, yeah, we need something else. So we
needed more Janice.
Well,
but
listen, Janice is still alive. Spoiler,
like,
but
no, listen, at the end of the day, I want to be in projects that are good. And if an extra weekend is what's going to put it over, then that's the least I can do. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's a real small sacrifice to make, actually.
Yeah. Well,
I'll get to Barbados somehow.
Naomi, you were talking about, like, obviously with Janice. What I found really interesting in the movie was you don't get a lot of backstory about a lot of the people in the apartment complex. like there's a little bit thrown in here and there. There's a line about like Brian had a rough time in Iraq, and Lester, you know, his wife died of cancer, but you don't really know what brought everybody to the complex.
Mm-hmm.
Were you given any kind of backstory, or did you come up with one for Janice? Like, was Janice there before Jerry, or was, you know, like, because it's such a, you and Taylor Nichols, who plays Jerry, have such a great dynamic together. And I was curious to know, like, your methodology going into that role, like, about your backstory of your character.
Well, yes, he's so easy to act with because he's just such a giving actor, you know. And, you know, I don't like to show how the sausage is made, but I mean, I always make a story for myself because, let's face it, that's what is informing all characters. Like, we all have a story, you know what I mean? Like, you have a story, and Peter has a story, and Chris has a story, and Alok has a story, you know, so, and I have a story. Whether or not we all hear it tonight, that's a whole nother story, you know. But I think, so yeah, of course I have a story for myself, but no, we never discussed it. So for all I know, Taylor had a totally different one than I did, and maybe David too, you know. That's filmmaking for you, you know what I mean? I feel like in theater, there's like ad nauseum talk, you know, you have months and months to sort of live with the director and the characters. And with film and TV, you just sort of show up and rolling, you know. It's usually like, you know, depends on how long you're sitting in the makeup chair that you have to, you know, really talk to the director,
Right.
if that. Because again, the director is oftentimes, well, you know, they've got so many other balls in the air too. Like, they're often sort of like the liaison between, okay, lighting and, you know, actors, and, you know, there's so many fires on the stove, and they're sort of in charge of all of them, that, you know, the actors and their backstory is really kind of like not their problem. Like, I mean, it is, but it isn't, you know. It's kind of like, yeah, you kind of needed to do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we hired you.
I was watching it for the third time today, and I just kept picturing, like, I would love this to be a mini series where we got like an episode about each person, and like to find out, almost like Lost, like the flashback of what brought Janice to the complex, what brought Esther the doctor to the that was just going on in my head, but that's really interesting though.
I love that idea. Alok, get on.
I feel like it's more a movie, frankly. I feel
Well,
like
obviously,
hold on.
that's
I feel like it's more, well, I mean, yeah, but I feel like it's more of a trilogy, and I feel like there's an expanded sort of thing to understand when we, you know, get.
But I really agree with Dan in terms of like each person, like what possesses us to join a cult, you know what I mean? Like, we're obviously like seeking something, and I mean, let's face it, we're in fact we're discouraged from even using the C word with this. We're instead it's a community. But you know, I don't know, I know I just recently found myself, you know, Netflixing it was called Wild Wild Country. It's a Netflix like mini series, and it talks all about, you know, it does kind of go into these people's stories and what possessed them, you know. And what was so crazy is at the very end, apparently the gurus changed his name. Like, when he died, he took on a new name. And I started hearing this other name, and I was like, Osho. And I realized, oh my God, I've totally read that guy's books. Like, I have his books on my shelf.
Wow.
Like, I swear, had I been around in the, you know, 70s, 80s, or whenever this was happening, I might have moved to Oregon and, like, you know, joined the commune. Like even I, like, would, and I'm not even like, you know, I consider myself pretty stable, but even I might have drunk that Kool-Aid. Like, who knows?
Well, so on set, was there that kind of feeling? Like, did you guys separate from, you know, Sarah? You know, was the idea to like kind of alienate her at first, like as a cast together?
She came out almost alienated herself. She's coming out from New York. She didn't know anybody. Like, she's coming out here just like the Sarah character, Nicole Bryden was, right?
Wow.
Right.
And everyone was actually very kind to each other on the set. And she kind of had her own thing because she's a star, let's say, but she was a little bit isolated, but not that isolated. I mean, I think she still talked to people, and like, you know, I know that Giles and her would talk quite a lot, and you know, and Giles is like, you know, definitely like Naomi, you know, more of an experienced actor and stuff, and like this isn't his first rodeo. And I know he talked to her a lot. I'm sure Naomi did too, but I think that she, if anyone was kind of isolated, maybe it was her. I don't know. Naomi, what do you recall?
Yeah, I mean, I would say no. We were all very friendly and you know, yeah. But
Method in
you
that
know,
way.
the rest of us all live in LA, so the rest of us are all kind of already know the language. The rest of us are like, oh, what neighborhood do you live in? And oh, I'm going to such and such tonight. And she's like, she's just been kind of dropped here from New York, staying in, we were shooting up in the, I should be careful because Alok lives up there now, but BFE, like for real. And, you know, so no, she, you know, did she even have a car? Like, I think she
I rented her the car myself. I had to go there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
She was like younger. And so not only that, but like, you know, she had family here and stuff too, but at the same time, like she was really a stranger in a stranger land in that regard. Yeah. She got 3 hours rehearse with David, if that. Like, wow. I mean, like, this girl came with it, and she came so well with it. I mean, again, we talk about, like, you know, not make a weirdness for you when you don't know the lay of the land. I think I'm slowing down now because it says my internet's fucked up. Has it gone back to normal yet?
It's good now.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So she really didn't know the lay of the land, and so it was kind of an interesting sort of plot device for us to sort of use with her, character device rather, for us to it just happened to be the case, you know? And so she just went through it like a champ, and then, like, you know, we've been a couple different places around the world with her, and she's just the sweetest lady. Like, I mean, you know, like Naomi, like she's about the work and she's just about no drama, and she just gets it done. And that girl can cry 8 different ways. It's fucking nuts. Like, it's, and Giles Matthey can too. We actually had like 3 different Giles on the set. We had Giles Matthey, who played Brian. We had Giles the cat.
Right.
And then we had fucking Haley Giles, who was the husband's like wife, nurse, like the affair, spoiler alert or whatever as well. You only see her come over and give the dad a drink over his shoulder, right? And she's gorgeous. Like, he just couldn't pan up a little bit more, the director, and like show her face and stuff like that. But we had 3 Giles on the set, and that fucking cat was fucking amazing. That cat was like, we called it one take Giles. He'd fucking just get it done. I mean, for a joke, we would call Giles Matthey on the set when the cat was acting, and say, like, get that fucking cat. It's in a one take Giles. What the fuck happened to you?
What was the significance of naming him Giles? Is it from like Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Or?
No, I don't, just nothing. Like, it just happened to be.
Just
like,
randomly Giles?
I've heard that from David Marmor's mouth. Like, didn't have roles. He had a cat when he had a similar situation where he moved into a building, and it was just like kind of Sarah was feeling, where he didn't like know anybody, you know, shared walls. It's all kind of creepy sometimes that you don't know anybody and everyone smiles, but you couldn't ever say that guy had a heart attack. You don't know their name. It's like that.
Yeah.
And he snuck a cat in, and so he was just hyper paranoid the entire time. He's gonna be found out. So that kind of helped him understand, like, you know, the horror of the situation, and even like lead into, you know, what happened. You know, it's in the trailer, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything in that regard. But like, what happened to that cat? You know, that was his worst fear. You know, like,
yeah.
So you write your worst fear sometimes.
So you know, look, speaking of trailers, right? Like, you know, you worked for like 18 years, right? With you know, basically testing audiences, right, and their reactions to movies and to trailers as well, right?
Mostly movies, but just, yes, in addition, trailers for sure.
Oh, okay. So like, when it came to designing the trailer for this movie, right, was there any kind of key notes that you wanted to hit or things that you didn't want to include?
our distributor sales agent, Dark Sky, who was so sweet and so kind, very boutique kind of place that they will work with filmmakers and so forth. They let us go back and forth in that trailer so much. I don't think that even if I was on the other side of that coin, I would not have the patience for us. And they had the patience for us. But the main thing was we wanted to make it so that we knew we had to reveal some things because you just can't not. But we wanted it to be so quick that you kind of get the feeling of it, but you don't necessarily remember it, if that makes sense. So we didn't tell the whole story in the trailer, which is the most important thing to me.
Right.
But we got through it quickly enough, revealing some visuals that needed to be revealed, that you needed to see, to be, enamored of the movie, to want to pay for it, let's say. But you don't remember everything necessarily. And so when you do see it, it actually is sort of like a new thing.
Yeah. So after, experience working in marketing and figuring out, what people want to see in movies, how did that affect your decisions while making this movie?
Well, I mean, certainly, we only had 15 days to shoot the movie initially, right? We only had so much money, and we were like, I can't do this, that, the other. And if I had to do over again, we would have shot for 20 days and not having to go back and do fucking reshoots because it could cost so much more in comparison to do that. And, but what I realized was that even when we were shooting the movie, they had changed the ending, and I was the one that was like, this cannot be the ending. This is a terrible thing, and da-da-da-da. And some mistakes happened where I was informed on certain things. So I really didn't know this was the ending we decided on, sadly. And when I got to set that day and I realized I hadn't been emailed, this is the ending, I started losing my fucking mind because I was like, we need to try to switch this right now. And they're like, no, we can't. It's already, the train is down the tracks. It's already rolling. We cannot do anything about this. And I was like, we're gonna have to do reshoots. I'm gonna tell you right now, we have to do reshoots. And I knew it, and we did. And when we did the reshoots, actually, it was really great though, because we went back and got stuff that we didn't have, reactions, this, that, the other, made it a richer film. And the endings we had to choose from, we did test screenings of it. Granted, smaller, as not scientific kind of test screenings. We only did 100 people total, 5 groups of 20. We did focus groups on them too. But we really discovered everything we needed to know. We shouldn't kill the cat in more brutal fashion. I really wanted to see the cat pop out of the oven and the eye explode and do crazy shit. And we just realized that listen, 75% of the audience doesn't want to see this.
Yeah.
25% does, but they're hardcore horror fans.
Right.
We don't have a hardcore horror movie. We have more of a psychological thriller with elements of horror. Right. But we don't have that. So you should not go and fucking pay $5,000-$6,000 to make a cat pop out of an oven CG wise to do whatever. And I'm also a cheap fucking producer. So I'm like, money grabbing producer. So again, that was another reason to not do it. The test screenings help us realize that. So hope
especially when you have, like you said, you say 8 different ways Nicole Bryden Bloom can cry, but really her facial expressions. And one that really stands out to me is the scene where they're basically letting go of Edie. And I'm watching this and didn't realize it the first time, but the second time I watched it, I realized, I'm like, oh my God, this is her face. First of all, she's giving us a new face that we haven't seen before. And she's essentially having this Twilight Zone version of her being at her mother's deathbed. It's very the air is so thick. And it's weird. And that brings it to a lot of other characters too. I wanted to go back to Janice for a minute because Janice has this, everyone is part of the community and they're 100% in, but everyone has these different type of roles. And there's times I see Janice in this movie, and I had to touch on this, where I feel like Janice wants to look at Sarah and just be like, what's up, freshman? She's really she's part of the community and, she has to do what she has to do. But I feel like there's times where she realizes that she's in a position of power and she's trying very hard to not be like, I'm gonna, but she wants you to know that there's a totem pole and you're at the bottom of it. So I was just curious, as Naomi, your more thoughts on that.
I love that assessment. Yeah, I mean, she's written pretty vaguely, she's just a, wife. But as we said, we all have a storyline, and so I decided I kind of wanted her to be kind of a rule abider and a disciplinarian. The fact is, and David and we all talked about the fact that no one like sets out to just be a bad guy. You know what I mean? No villain is, like, even though obviously at the end of the day, like they are bad guys, that's not the intention. The intention is to live in a place that, with structure and, and it may require, branding and brainwashing our fellow, our neighbors in order to achieve that. But I love your assessment. That I can't take credit for that at all, but I love that you got that from it.
You know what's interesting is that, like, I'll be honest, I run our social media and stuff like that because, it's just, you got to do it because you don't have a lot of money, right? Yeah. But I've seen like 2 different things come across the last like week that talked about like, is this what the Greek system is like? And it was like, another one was actually more interesting. It was like, is Sarah rushing this horrible fraternity sorority? And wow. Like Naomi is her, like, what was it called? Your person
I'm
above.
Her sister, her, yeah.
Sister, yeah.
Naomi is almost, she wants to be Parker Posey in Dazed and Confused.
That's a great, yeah.
But she's also, but Naomi is also I remember watching it again and thinking like, all right, like, watching it for the first time and thinking something's up. Like this is, like if you go into it knowing nothing, you think something was up. And then a little thing like Janice reprimanding her child. You're like, oh no, these people they're normal. Like this is it's totally normal. And it kind of lulls you every time you want to, kind of crawl into, wait, what's going on? You're like, oh no, this is just, it's normal. And those little subtle moments are really what tie this whole thing together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I wrote the review that I wrote for the movie for geeksofdoom.com. The first 3 words that I wrote in my review were cults are scary. And I know that's the C word that we're not going to say, but they are. We're all horror fans, and like I could watch a slasher movie and laugh while somebody's getting axed in the head, but like cults are really unsettling. And one of the things that, and Naomi touched on this when she was talking about Wild Wild Country, because I watched that series also, is cult members, they always believe that they're 100% right and it's everybody else who's crazy. And you totally get that feeling in 1BR from everyone in that complex. And that, Chris mentioned Edie's death scene. She is totally accepting of it at the end, and she's the one that's comforting Sarah. So, like, I guess my general question is, like, you guys live in LA, and LA is obviously, when I think of LA and cults, I think of the Manson family, and then more recently, you think of things like, NXIVM and things like that. Can you just talk about, like, the idea of cults in LA and how that drew you to this movie in any way? Because they scare the hell out of me.
I agree. I have to say thank you for pushing this interview a half hour, because I had to ride past the Scientology Center to get here, and I'm not trying to do that in the dark. No, thank you. I might not be here otherwise. You might have just saved my life.
I will tell you from David Marmor's perspective, and I can speak for him because I've literally been in so many interviews with him, and I've heard him say this 100 times. So a lot of this cult is based around like Synanon, which is a cult like in the 60s, and I think there might even be an HBO Max. Like we were talking about today, Naomi. Like there might be a show on it called The Vow or something.
The Vow, yeah.
I don't know if it is or not, but we were talking about it. But Synanon was this cult that, well, it was a help self-help thing that was started to get people off of drugs back in like the 60s when, you know, alcoholism or smack or whatever was looked on kind of as like, you know, your lost soul. Da, da, da. So these people got funding from the government actually to kind of go through and do this stuff, and started doing a thing where they, you know, got people, they figured you could never be completely not addicted. And so they made you live in the same place, let's say. And then it kind of like followed that you should all do the same things, and the whole like, you know, slapping each other in the face stuff you see in the movie and stuff like that became part of it, where you tell your truth and you could be forgiven if, you know, people could abuse you in some way. And then it became a thing even further where, you know, everyone needed to shave their head and stuff. And like, if you look at the George Lucas movie, THX 20, whatever,
1138.
1138, yeah. All of those guys, all those people that are the bald people in that movie are the Synanon members, by the way. They were used as extras in that movie, right? Because they moved up to like Northern California and got a ranch and the whole thing, right?
Oh my God.
And they needed money, of course. So like he was doing a movie and looking for bald extras, and we're all bald. Let's just do this thing, right? So this is an interesting thing how, you know, cults evolve and stuff like that. So the idea, though, at the end of the day, was that Southern California is full of these cults, obviously. You were mentioning this, right? Like, it's literally like people took, like, Vince Vaughn always said in, like, Swingers, I think, like, oh, it's like we took the country and we shook it, and all the crazy girls came down here. Well, not just crazy girls, crazy people came down here, and they're all, like, looking for something. They're all seekers of something, you know? Joe Bob Briggs says this, like, people come to California to make movies. They're seekers, and, like, you know, there's also other seekers. They're crazy people, right? You know? So
listen, as a seeker, Alok is from Los Angeles, so
I lived here from age 14. Like that makes me official.
Angelino for sure, but
yeah.
you know, yeah, it's a place of like dreams where people have these lofty ideas of like, you know, making it in Hollywood or whatever, and yeah, there's a lot of us that are just sort of displaced here. I say us because I'm absolutely one of them. Like, you know, there's the kids from high school that like stayed home and married their high school sweetheart, and then there's the rest of us who kind of like came here looking for more, and I think,
and also, by the way, accomplished their dream, because look at this wall behind her over here. There's like everyone fucking loves like Pepper, and in addition to that, loves Naomi Grossman. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. But you know, the point is, you know, whether or not we accomplish our dream or not, we are vulnerable, right? We're kind of like a people that is like, oh, what's gonna work? Like, I need friends. I need, you know, make rent. I need love. I need, you know, acceptance. And so I think that's why this is a story that is maybe not necessarily unique to Southern California, but like it's everywhere. Like,
yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's definitely more prevalent in Southern California, given all the cult movies and cults that we have here, regardless of what they are. Whatever new version is happening this week that we don't even know about. Like Nexium, you know, whatever, Manson, you know, it's there for sure. We have a rich culture of it, as you said.
Yeah. By the way, Naomi, I love your wall and everything back there too.
It's the cult. And I'm the
cult?
leader.
That is awesome. You know, Naomi, my daughter's name is actually Pepper, too.
Really?
Yeah. She was born before American Horror Story, you know, freak show, but yeah, her name's Pepper, and so it's kind of cool. She's 10.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Did she go by like that's her name on her birth certificate?
That is her name on her birth certificate and stuff. And people would always say to her as she was growing up, when she was younger, they'd be like, "Oh, what's your sister's name? Salt?" And it's like, "Oh, all right." But like, you know, yeah, it's cool. And we'll probably show her, you know, AHS when she gets older. She's kind of starting to get into horror now, you know.
That's awesome. Does she have a nickname? I mean, Pep or?
No, just no. Pepper. Like.
And what was the inspiration? Were you just like, I love advice?
Yeah,
Or-
no, you know, like, just like everyone else from like our generation, you know, want to have like a unique name for our kids. And so my wife knew someone named Pepper when she was growing up, but that was pretty much the only time she knew someone named.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've met quite a few Pepper pets,
Yes.
but never a Pepper person. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, speaking of meeting people too that, like, you know, are connected to your show and stuff, have you guys met with people that have been in cults that have kind of talked about 1BR? Like, oh, this reminds me of my own personal experience.
We met when we were Beyond Fest in Los Angeles. This person got up and just gave sort of a question statement kind of thing and just said, like, listen, I grew up in a cult, you know, and it was this, and this is the most realistic kind of portrayal I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And we were like, you know, at one point, in some way we were totally like, thank you. But the other part, we're like, can I give you a hug? Like, it's sort of like, you know, but he had gotten out. And so it was like, you know, it was past him, I suppose. But like, you know, we have met people that have, like, you know, tweeted us stuff and different things like that. But like, you know, I think it's tough to, you know, I don't think you know you're in a cult when you're in a cult sometimes.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say, like, again, like what you said about having the books of the Wild Wild Country guy. Like when you hear Charles Ellaby on the TV, I teach history for a living, and like in my head, I'm going, that doesn't seem like that bad of an idea. Oh wait, no, it's a cult. Like,
Well,
it's just.
I will say this. Like, David and I talked about this, and it was a thing where, like, he did such a good job, and then also in the editing of it, he did such a good job of making everything seem very reasonable. We're not trying to rape this girl. We're not trying to do different things that people would, you know, probably go. Everyone was like, I can't believe you didn't go to that place. I want to see her naked. I'm like, you guys are sick people. You know? But they wanted that. Like, this is like the horror movie mind sometimes, right? Like, I want this. You know, we had to keep it, like, you know, sort of elevated horror in its own right, right? And we kept it in a certain way where I was like, I almost describe it like this: like, we're almost like American History X, right? Like, you see like. Edward Norton give this speech about, like, you know, all these people coming and taking our jobs and whatever else. And it's such a compelling speech in some weird way that you're almost like, yeah, they are taking our jobs. And you're like, what the fuck? These guys are Nazis. Don't fucking believe it. You know, like, you have to stop and put yourself back because it's so good. And we're not like crossing boundaries where you think you would cross boundaries, right?
Right.
So that was the kind of thing. This cult actually is a pure thing. They actually believe in what they're talking about. They're not trying to do things to hurt people, but they completely are. But they believe in what they're talking about. So, for example, Janice, for example, like, you talk about her. She is like full in. She is bought into this thing. Like, she's just like, listen, I'm going to show you what this is all about at one point to Sarah, right? Just watch and observe is what she says. She doesn't even like say, like, you know, you do what I say. Just watch and see how we're so happy together, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, there's a whole sort of synergy to this where you have to believe that these cult members think they're doing the right thing, even though we, as an outside viewer, know that they're not. So,
yeah, no, to your credit, Alok, I recently watched with some friends, and they were like, is this a true story? Is this based on a true story? And I was like, no, but like, yeah, it looks like it. Like, it's that easy, and it kind of flows seamlessly from, like, moment to moment. And I mean, it gets, when you, as you're watching, you're like, what? How did this happen? Like, when her hand's on the wall, you're like, how did we escalate to this? And yet it was so gradual that it almost,
I mean, it's a bit of a slow burn, right? I mean, it kind of is in that regard. And David did an amazing job. And again, the test screen stuff helped out so much too, because we were just like micro cutting like seconds within scenes and stuff like that. And it was like, I knew that, like, for example, the first act, for example, was like 33 minutes long. We cut it down to like 22 minutes. Just to get to everything faster. It could have been more character development, also more interesting things to see. But we're like, it doesn't matter because we need to get here first. Character development, we think, is there. With this cut, we even cut it shorter. Then we're like, it's too short now. We lose this, we lose that. So let's make it exactly 22 something. We'll get to, you know, the certain part that happens in the movie that, like, turns it. And then it's turned a couple different ways. People always talk about that too in terms of the movie. They're always like, listen, this movie isn't your normal sort of like, you know, psychological horror thriller, because it definitely turns different ways. If you don't watch the trailer, which I at this point, weirdly, I love our trailer we cut, but you know what? Fuck it. If you want to, if it's better for you as a viewer to not watch a trailer and just go in cold, fucking do that. I tell you, I think that's what's going on now, actually, because I've been hearing that so many people tell us that now. They're like, I went in with nothing. I love this fucking movie. And so I'd rather have more sort of like true believers or whatever, true lovers of the movie than not to watch the trailer, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love, I actually kept like time, and I wrote this in my review, and I was talking to the guys before you guys came on, like, this movie features both the physical and psychological deconstruction of a character in Sarah. Like, for like 45 minutes out of the 90-minute runtime is her being physically and psychologically deconstructed by this apartment complex. And it's one of the like longer like cult initiations that you'll ever see, but it's done in such a way, and Naomi does such a good job with like, you know, the scene that we were talking about before, where she's like guiding her through the complex, and then that's interspersed with the smacking sequence. Yeah. It felt like the actors had to play almost a dual role, where they had to be like these happy, like neighborly people, and then snap into like, you know, all of a sudden Nichols like pulls out a gun and is pointing it at her, and Janice is, you know, chopping the vegetables one minute, and then she's running at her with a knife. So like Naomi, did you like, how do you go, like, how do you approach that part of the character where you kind of have to snap in and out of different emotions so quickly?
That's the job. I don't know, like that. I mean, I couldn't begin to teach history, but I can definitely like snap in and out of characters and emotions. I can't chop vegetables very well, though. I will say that. I got the note while we were doing that, the chopping scene. David came and talked to me. He's like, do you cook? And I was like, not at all. He's like, yeah, we can tell. Because I guess they were like petrified that I was gonna like lose a finger and all that. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the job, like shape-shifting, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you did a fantastic job, because I think that, you know, besides Brian, I think that you might have been the least likable character in the movie. And I mean, you're likable as a person, but your character just like, ooh, she was pretty intimidating, I thought.
I like to look at Brian, so that makes him even more likable for me.
Yes.
Look at Janice.
I definitely wanted Brian to die, and of course, you know, the leader too. But yeah, I was actually surprised that Janice lived.
I mean, yeah.
I'll say this: social media is like a cesspool. It's just a cesspool.
Yes.
Like, there is like so much like mean, weird shit going on.
What are they saying about me?
You know, you don't want to know. It's not about you. Actually. It's not about you, to be honest.
I was gonna say.
But there's just a lot of like mean shit that goes down. Like, there's like, the internet trolls are the worst. Like, I mean, like, I know from testing our movie, I know our movie isn't a 1-star movie. It's not. Like, I know it's not. But people were like, I couldn't watch the whole thing. You killed a cat. 1 star. I can give you 0 stars if I could. Like, and I didn't even watch the whole movie. This is our #1 review on fucking Amazon right now. Like,
Oh my God.
If any of you like listen to this and like our movie, please go to Amazon and give that one review that's called "This is like creepy as F" or whatever. Give that guy the positive review to lift us up a little bit in that way. But like, you know, go to Rotten Tomatoes, please, and like give us a 5-star review if you like it. I mean, it's just in your heart. Give whatever you want, but like, please help us, because there's literally guys like, this is bullshit, 1 star. Like, and I don't even think they've even watched the whole movie. Really, it's so sad.
Just trolls.
It's like that person who goes on TripAdvisor and it's like, everything was amazing, but the towels were scratchy, 1 star. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Really?
The worst review we had, and I won't go on record to say who it was because he's a nice guy, but I mean, kind of, but like, he was just like, we were at Fantasia, and he's like, everyone is like raving about this movie. I don't know how to write a review about an okay movie. And I was like, okay, well, first off, he's like, it's okay. And then he's like, you know, this is good, this is good, this is bad. Overall, kind of like it. 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Come on, man. 3 out of 5, you couldn't do that? You know, it's like,
That legit.
you take it very personally when you're the producer, right?
Yeah. It reminds me of a lot of other movies I love so much. And I love the cult genre. I love The Invitation, and then
well, The Invitation in particular, I'll tell you something. Like, I went to high school with Matt Manfredi as the co-writer of The Invitation.
oh, okay.
He's a friend, right? And so when we were about to make the movie, I let him read the script, and I was like, hey, listen, there's an ending. Da-da-da. Can you read it? And he's like, has nothing to do with our film. And I was like, okay, thank you. We're having, like, you know, beers and like crepes or something at some LA place that does both of those jackass things. And then it just so happens that I am producing a movie with Lindsay Lanzanella, who is actually the producer of The Invitation. My next movie is with her, right?
Oh, okay.
And she watched the fucking movie, and she's like, it's fine. It's nothing to do with us. And I'm like, those 2 fucking people have to tell us this, right?
Right.
And we have these jackasses that are like, fucking knock off of The Invitation, or like whatever, like, you know, whatever people do, the internet trolls and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if those 2 people don't think anything's wrong with this fucking movie and have nothing to say about it, then fuck you.
You know what, though? Like, I sit there and watch it and I go, clearly these 2 movies have nothing to do with each other.
I mean,
Well,
they're kissing cousins. They're kissing cousins. I'll give you
yes,
that.
but
And they'd be a
in
great
my-
double feature.
Yes.
Yeah, a fun
Joe
little
Bob.
idea in my own brain is that I like to imagine, even though I know they're not related, I like to imagine, I'm like, this shit's happening on the same night. It's not. We know it's not, but I love, it makes it a little more fun to tell myself that. You know?
You know,
Whereas
they-
people take that and run the opposite way with it.
Yeah. You could say I'm stealing Danny's joke, I'm sorry. But you could say they're a shared universe, you know? It could be like the cultiverse, right? Do that shit.
Well, if people want to do a dark sky universe, whatever. That was the thing we were joking about the other day. There's like 2 movies on Dark Sky. We're just giving you guys a preview of things. Well, one is already out there. It's Honeymoon Phase, which is a pretty cool movie. I don't know if you've heard of that or seen that yet. Really cool. Look that up. And then the other one that's coming out, it's called Hosts. And that is fucking nuts. I mean, you'll see. You'll see.
Wait, host?
Wait, what was the name of it, Alok?
Like hosts, plural.
Oh.
Hosts.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it's unfortunate in a year to come out with that movie title when you had the thing on fucking
Shudder.
Yeah.
that movie, which I thought was really effective. I thought it was really good for what it
Yeah.
was. I just thought that it was like 55-minute movie. I don't know if we can call it a movie, but that's what I thought.
Right.
I was like,
It's a really long short film.
it's a really long, no, that's exactly what I said. I was like, this is an amazing long short. And but listen, for the found footage stuff, I thought Unfriended, the second one, was actually really well done. If you ever saw that, right?
Dark
Yeah.
Dark Web? That was Dark
Yeah.
Web. That was good.
Yeah.
That was much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, but I think that compare the host on Shudder to that movie, and I think that the Unfriended movie is actually kind of better. But it just so happens they shot the host movie that's on Shudder during COVID, and so everyone's using the whole we shot it during COVID thing to elevate it more than it should be. And I love it. By the way, it's effective. It's really good.
Right.
But it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which is kind of bullshit. I mean, there's no way that movie's a perfect movie. There's always some asshole to find something wrong with a movie. I'm saying, but I don't know. I like that movie quite a lot. I would give it like top scores, but I can't believe everyone finds that movie so beyond COVID. That's the reason. They're
What's funny-
COVID. Gotta give him props, you know. Like,
Right.
God bless
One
him.
thing about
God bless him. I don't want to be disingenuous or weird or whatever.
you guys can claim that you were on top of COVID first, because at the beginning of 1BR, Giles, that's the actor's name. Brian introduces himself to Sarah and gives her an elbow pound because they're carrying the cat cage. And you guys can claim that you were like COVID before COVID.
There you
Ahead
go.
of the curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all locked in there, yeah.
It's funny that you bring up Brian, Dave, because Brian is.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just couldn't hear what you said. Sorry.
Well, I was saying Brian had brought up Danny, and I'm sorry, Danny had brought up Brian, and Brian is the only one. That's really what I was going to say. Sets apart this film from other C-word films. Is that really you go into them and you're like, oh, everyone's clearly something. Everyone's off. Something's going on. Aside from Lester, which I feel like Lester is initially something's way off, so it's almost too obvious. Brian, both times I saw it, Brian is the only one that strikes me as obvious when I view everyone in this community. Brian is the only one. His body language, his niceness, for lack of a better word, it's really just like like something's up with it. But honestly, he's the only one I find initially like something's going on. Everyone else, I'd be like, this place is great. You know, and what you said before about going in knowing nothing, people not watching the trailers, I find that is most effective. If you go in not having seen anything, and you're really like, I don't know what I'm walking into. This could be anything.
Right. Yeah. And he invites you to that dinner party. I kind of want to know what happens at the dinner party. Do you guys know?
Yes.
Well, maybe we'll know in other movies.
Oh. So, well, speaking of other movies, so
hold on. There's a whole universe to expand on this. I'm gonna tell you this: we're talking to like studios right now,
right,
to figure out what could be happening. So, let's see.
Nice. Okay.
We can't say anything, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so is there any future projects that either of you guys can talk about right now?
Naomi.
Oh, I was gonna say Alok.
Well,
I mean, I have an
Naomi
answer.
is a one-woman show. She's so humble. This woman, it's crazy. It's like.
No, I mean, sure, I'll go first. Well, here's the thing. The actor's life, let's face it, we shot this Christmas of 2 years ago. We shot this Emmys weekend 2 years ago. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where my work was done like a long time ago.
We thought they're shooting a ton of other stuff after that. Like, that's the thing. Like, American Horror Story again.
Yeah. So I definitely shot things since then, but I don't necessarily know where they are in the pipeline. Like, I'm really kind of dependent upon the editor and, directors and producers and whatnot to, finish the project. So, if you look at my IMDb, it's like, oh, wow, you got a lot going on. But it's like, I don't know. I shot a bunch of shit. I don't know when it'll be done. Like, you know what I mean? There's one film in particular that I know, like.
My dog just threw up in the corner over here. Sorry. My dog just threw up over here. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You keep on talking. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, but so like there's one film in particular I did that I would love to be talking about, but as it turns out, like the director and the composer are in a big fight right now, and so they're just at a total like standstill until they can come to some sort of rapprochement. In the meantime, I'd love to be talking about that, but who knows? Maybe it'll never even get done, and which is a real shame,
Yeah.
But so basically, there's a lot of things that I can't talk about because I don't even know. Like, my job is done from a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I'm just sort of beholden to the below the line people to do their job to finish up in order for me to talk about. That said, there are some things that I can talk about. Well, I assume you've got gamers listening. I'm in the new mafia movie franchise, or not movie, what am I saying, game franchise. It's like I guess in the 80s mafia was a thing, and now they've got a new remake. So I do a mean mob wife voice for it.
Oh, that's awesome.
If you're playing and you sound somebody, you hear somebody that sounds like me, it's because it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm also, as Alok had said, I'm working on a new one-woman show. I have 2 that I did prior,
and they're so good, by the way. They're so good. Her 2 one-woman shows. And one of them, my favorite, I got to tell you, that went to Edinburgh and different things like that, was the for Carnal Knowledge show. Carnival Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She talks about, like, all her different lovers of sorts that were crazy people, and one guy that pulled up next to her wearing a chicken suit, and she was like, I have to, like, see what this guy's about. That's the funniest fucking story. I swear to God, it's great.
Yeah.
You gotta pay. I don't know what came of that guy. I'm sure he was the one. Anyway,
I just have to go deal with my daughter for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Go
So
ahead.
you guys
She
keep
throw up
going.
in the corner.
She threw up in the corner. Yeah, no. Yeah.
She threw up on the floor. She threw up on the floor. The
Always-
dog did, so it was good. It was not.
At some point through this whole call, someone has to leave it at one point because somebody threw up in the corner.
Something happened.
Carnival Knowledge was a comic kernel romp that sort of chronicled. It was sort of like Sex in the City, but like different coasts, shittier shoes.
Retarded.
The tagline was like 6 million men in LA. She only needs 1 to work. Anyway, this next show, so I have 3 now. The first show was called Girl in Argentine Landscape, and it sort of chronicles my coming of age story in Argentina, true story. And then my second one was more of a come of age story, different spelling, here in LA. And now this third, which I want to be a little cagey about myself. I'm trying to take tips from Alok. He likes to kind of J.J. Abrams everybody with his upcoming projects, and so I'm going to do the same with this one. But I'm really excited because it's, it's been something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and there've been so many distractions, and yet COVID was really a great excuse to like just force myself to just get it done. And I'm almost there. And what's really wonderful about it is that, let's face it, the first one was in 2002. The second was in 2009. And here we are, 2020 for a third. And, a lot has happened for me since then. And so, I've got some pretty lofty ideas of selling it to a Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and making it one of those streaming 1-hour comedy specials. And, what's really beautiful about this time, and believe me, it's the only good thing I have to say about it, is that the idea of me, selling it to one of these streaming services is actually probably more plausible than gathering a group of theater goers and producing it the old-fashioned way. So the way that I went about doing it when I really didn't have a budget, and I was basically putting my Spanish teacher earnings, whatever wasn't going towards rent, went towards like producing this play. Now I feel pretty good about making this happen in a much bigger way.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's very exciting.
If I lived in LA, I would come see you.
Well, thank you. Now, tell me where you are, and I'll come to you.
For real, I'm in Austin, Texas. So y'all always do like tours and stuff, right?
Never know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, ideally, I won't even leave, I'll drive across town to shoot it once and then be done. And who knows, it could happen, obviously. But yeah, I mean, my last 2 shows, they went to Edinburgh to the festival there. I did a, festival in Chicago, in New York. I've done college tours where we, go to colleges. This third one is pretty dirty and is probably not going to make
super
it.
dirty. I will tell you that. I've known Naomi Grossman. I've heard the stories already, just in life, just because we're friends. And this is going to be great stories. Dirty, fucking, filthy, fucking stories.
Yes.
Hilarious as they would be.
That's awesome.
But I will use my use of the F word. I will be very choice.
Uh-huh.
This
I don't think I used the F word that much during this entire show, did I?
I was gonna say, Naomi, next time you do a podcast, you should have a swear jar.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because
One of those,
Alok, if you noticed me laughing, it was because of Naomi telling you not to curse every time you cursed.
Again. Can you tell the bird not to fly? Can you tell the fish to swim? You cannot do this. It's just what it is. So listen. I know that.
Listen, you're the one reading the trolls' comments. Like, this was a comment by a listener. So.
All right. Listen.
You're the one who's into market research and want to hear, what people think.
Fair enough. But here's the thing. I know it's 8:48. I know that we're a little past our time, Naomi. Can we go a little longer, or what do you think?
Sure. I just got somebody vomited in the corner.
There you go. There you go.
If you want to go pee. Like, if that's
No,
what it is.
I was just making a joke.
All right, I'm kidding. Listen. I'm going to tell you this. So, for what we're working on next, we can't talk about it. I'll tell you one thing. So the next movie we're working on, it's just out there now because it's whatever it is, called Emergent. Marcel Sarmiento, who did Dead Girl, he's a writer-director of it. And so we're working on that with him. The next movie after that is with David Marmor, who did 1BR.
Right.
And we are working on that with him right now. And can't talk about it. It's like, it is, we're trying to literally J.J. Abrams the shit out of that thing.
Can I just ask you, because I know you've done a lot of, obviously you've worked with David a lot and you do a lot of these talks with him. This was his first feature, right?
Yeah.
So like, what was his background? Because this is for a first time feature writer director. This movie blew me, it blew all of us away, and it's getting great reviews. So like, what was his background before he got into feature filmmaking? Because as a first-time filmmaker, it's just great.
David?
Well, he went to Harvard. He's not a dummy.
Oh, you really did? Wow.
He also went and started a video game company right after that got bought by some other bigger company we won't talk about. But, he was, essentially comfortable enough to then apply to USC to go to the directing program. And so he did that. But even after that, he struggled like everyone else, like was doing like, I don't know, some sort of like marketing videos for companies and stuff like this. But he was having to do everything himself, right? So he was like, okay, I'm doing, VFX and I'm doing this and da-da-da. Oh. So he kind of learned to do everything from ground level up, just besides directing and, almost sort of producing and whatever else. And did a couple of really great shorts that I saw that I thought were good enough. I mean, it was a thing where you never know with the shorts, to be honest. Like, who can actually deliver something that's a feature level thing compared to doing a short. And I got to say this. I kind of think shorts are kind of bullshit to some extent. If you've done one or two, great. Don't do like 6. You don't need to do fucking 6, right? Just fucking start. Get the money together and do the fucking movie because you can do it. And the reason I say this, and this is an inspirational thing for everyone involved, is that once you're in the club, people trust you. Even if your movie wasn't as good, they still trust you that you could get something done, right? So with Marmor, I love Marmor. We met together like at the Culver Hotel. It just so happened that his manager was my wife's high school friend. We had one of these fucking douchebag lunches you have in Los Angeles where you're like, let's meet and talk about ourselves. And we did. And,
right.
he sent me 2 scripts. One of them, which is Marmor's script, right? And the other one was Tragedy Girls, which is a fucking awesome movie, by the way. And I was like, Tragedy Girls. My market research background would tell me comedy horror doesn't usually work because neither audience is satisfied. And they're like, we just finished shooting this a week ago. And I was like, what the fuck do I know? So anyway, long and short though is that Marmor and I met, got along, it was all great. Saw his shorts, they're all great. And we're like, let's just see what's going to happen here. Because I just think he's just so smart and he has such a great vision, to be honest, actually, right?
Yeah.
And so we're working together on another movie that we will choose not to, talk about at all. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a really cool movie because it's even better than 1BR.
Wow.
And that's about that.
Wow.
He kind of gives off, I mean, our podcast is called the Lasser Cast. We're named for Mike Flanagan symbolism and Mike Flanagan movies. And it, going from a few short films to a low budget, really effective movie in a very singular location.
Our low budget film is better than Absentia, isn't it though? Come on, don't talk shit. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Oh,
it is.
I mean,
Mike Flanagan might watch this though.
Hey! I'm sorry,
It
Mike.
is.
I love Mark.
On the same level.
It doesn't matter. There's no one. I'm not cutting anyone down here. I'm just saying that this particular film has to be better. Is maybe better than that particular film. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I would love to work with Mike Flanagan, by the way, any day of the week, right?
Right.
As a producer. Like, I mean, that guy's a fucking wonderkind. He's like amazing. He's our new genius. He's the new guy we can hold up right now because he's not really done anything that's really shit. He's done everything that's like getting better and better per se, right? Right. But Absentia he was starting out.
Well, that was basically our first podcast was about Absentia, and our basic take was it's the least impressive of Mike Flanagan's movies, but it was great for what it was at the time.
Again, I agree with you. He's starting out, and it's really good for what it is, right? It just gets better and better. That's the idea, right? Like, but it's just okay compared to 1BR. I'm just saying.
Well, trust me, we're all hoping David Marmor has that career trajectory.
Yeah.
If we're looking back in like 10 years and 1BR is David Marmor's worst film, then he's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm just talking shit and being funny, but trust me, I love everything he's done. Like, I'm sorry, like, Mike done again. So
yeah. Well, we loved your movie, guys, and we want to just keep promoting it. We were thinking about doing a live show where we just review it the way we do our deep dive reviews. Because we talk about our movies for like 40 minutes, and so we just wanted to devote our time to asking you guys questions tonight. But we were going to maybe do a review show with the three of us just talking about your movie and giving it praise because it deserves it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
love it. I love your insight. We do so many of these that it's rare for people to say something we've never heard before. But I heard a lot of things that I hadn't heard before, so I appreciate that.
Good. Thank you.
And likewise, it was great to hear you guys with your stories too behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
It really illuminated things for us too. So
we didn't even talk about the fires. There were also, there's always fires in Los Angeles, especially like this time of year. But we like almost like the fires that were happening at that time were like a mile away from where we were shooting. Like this movie was not supposed to happen. Like there were so many. It's amazing, really.
Yeah. With your handsome bandits, or what was he called? The handsome.
Right.
Handsome felon.
Handsome felon. Okay, yeah. And the fires, it's pretty hazardous over there. And the cults. So was there anything else you guys wanted to plug or anything like that, or while we still have you guys?
I don't know. Please go to 1BR_film and tell us you love us or something, or just tweet us, or I don't know how it works. I'm an old person, so I don't quite know how it works. I'm trying to do the social media, but like I don't know. Naomi Grossman probably has much more better stuff to say than I do.
People know what to do. Like, well, no, you know what? I'll add on that because sometimes they don't. Like a lot of times people are like, we want you back on American Horror Story. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, nobody wants that more than me. Like, I'm the one who has to pay a mortgage here. Like, come on. So, but telling me you want that isn't gonna make it. Like, I am not a decision maker in Hollywood, actually. So, you know, let the show know. Let Amazon know. Let Netflix know. You know what I mean? Like, we love hearing praise, obviously. But you know, if 1BR is not in your country, then let Netflix in your country know you want it. You know, if your favorite actor isn't, you know, on your favorite show right now and you want them back, or on another show or whatever, like, it's, you know, we live in a very unique time in that it's not just American Idol where you, like, you know, text your favorite in. Like, we all have access. You know, we can all actually
Make an effect.
We can affect what we want to see on the screen. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
You know, what's going to be very interesting is that people want to see a sequel to 1BR.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really amazing thing, because I wonder if they do. I kind of feel like everyone does, weirdly. But okay, fine. It's my own, like, you know, stupid, greedy producer fingers, like, money-grubbing fingers that I want to, like, you know, put it out there again. I want to think that they do, because we have a great ending, and it's kind of left a little open-ended, and that's a spoiler, of course. But I think that at the end of the day, we want to, like, understand what has happened to Sarah, or what has not happened to Sarah. There could be other characters involved. And you know, we always joke about, like, the Chronicles of Janice, but, like, I don't want to say too much more about it, because I just want it to be, if Janice comes back, holy shit, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Could be very cool.
I hope she does.
How deep does this go?
Yeah.
yeah.
Trust me, that's the interesting part of it, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
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 The first time I watched it, I literally yelled at the screen when Sarah stops running for that 1 second.
Yeah.
And in my I was just like, what are you doing? Keep running.
Yeah.
And
The only thing I would have wanted, I'll tell you the truth, we shot 15 days, then 4 days reshoots, right? And that, her running is part of that 4-day sort of running, reshoots, whatever, right? And so what happened was that, like, we only had so much time in that night to shoot everything we needed to shoot. And they were like, oh, can we have her run further down the street? Well, it won't make sense in the way we're shooting the rest of what we're shooting. Like, because, like, you know, it was like she runs around a corner. We couldn't get more running kind of footage in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, this is going to make enough sense. And I was like, okay, fine. But I knew we needed a little bit more. As a producer, I knew we couldn't do it. So sadly, I understand your note. Couldn't do it. Sad.
Huh. That's interesting.
But we've gotten it here and again, but mostly everyone's been like, damn, or whatever. Like, I mean, that's been the note, like, we gotten from them. Like, they're okay with whatever we did, and they're just like, shit, this is a fucked up shit thing. You know what? It's literally like, you can look. I've been trying to go back. There's one section of retweets that I didn't realize I had, and I started doing them today. And I realized I did, like, I don't know how many, and then Twitter cut me off. They're like, you can't tweet anymore today. Like, I was like, what? I realized for the first time, like, you could only retweet so many things, and most of them were like, shit, or this crazy as F, you know, like, it was like literally us.
Oh my God.
So anyways, we'll see what happens. And here's the great news of it. You guys love the movie. You're telling your people you love the movie.
Yes.
Everyone loves the movie. It's getting love. At the end of the day, we just need to get that out there, and we need to tell all our friends, because this is the biggest part of everything. Word of mouth is the biggest thing that I've ever learned in a market research company that can actually cut through everything.
I love how his movie was 1 on Netflix, and he's still like, tell your friends. Like,
but
Our friends
you
know.
keep it there.
no, but not all of them have retweeted it, or not all of them have talked about it, or not all of them, you know, it's one of those things. You got to do that, right?
Yeah. I can say that I've actually told people that aren't horror fans about this movie, and I said you should check this out, you know, because I think like this might not be their bag to begin with, but I think it's a good movie on its own. So,
well, you know, it's an interesting movie that kind of straddles the sort of genres, right? Like it is a horror movie on one end, but it's more of a psychological horror thriller with elements of horror, right? And so because of that, like you can tell your friends that like don't want to see a lot of, like, we have a little bit of gore. We pull away from that very easily, and there's some cat stuff or whatever that's in the trailer, so we're not destroying anything for anybody.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to kind of like understand that there's certain people that are going to be comfortable with that or not comfortable with that, but mostly I'd say 75% of the audience would be comfortable with most everything we're suggesting. The test audiences, I'm making a joke about that. Anyways,
I think like what Pete was saying, though, that goes back to what we were saying before about the whole nature of just cults in general. There's something about cults that are intriguing, and you don't have to be a horror movie fan because they're real. Like you could just be somebody who picked up the newspaper and read about NXIVM and been like, holy crap, that actress.
I think the horror that men do is like the horrible stuff in the world, right? Like that's actually the horrible part that human beings do to each other, right?
Yes.
That's the horrible thing. But listen. I think we have to go. Naomi, how we have to go, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to be on without her at this point, and you know, we need to go.
All right.
But listen. If you have any follow-up questions, we're totally happy to answer those.
Okay.
And let us know how we can do anything to promote this episode and so forth. We're happy to do it. You know.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Let us know.
That'd be so great, Alok. I appreciate it. And Naomi, thank you for joining us too.
Thank you so
both
much.
very much.
Thank you so much, guys. This is awesome.